Hey guys, and welcome back to your English 2 classroom again today. I wanted to go ahead and preview your lesson, your next lesson. It's still over American Flag Stands for Tolerance, which we read yesterday, which was an editorial by Ronald J. Allen. So you should have already read this and answered the questions and done all the annotating and maybe watched this screencast, kind of get an understanding of how you discuss a text. But I really wanted to spend a little time with you this afternoon on not the check your understanding questions, although you do need to do these 3 questions, answer them carefully, and of course, you get to check your answers. But make sure that you really think about these and answer these. I was telling my in person learners the other day, and so I wanted to emphasize to everybody you have to do the work on this to really get the full benefit of this really rigorous curriculum. Um, if you just guess and then check your answer and guess again and check your answer, that doesn't really help you. Okay, so what we want to do is learn these skills and really learn to analyze what we're reading. And it is challenging. The questions today are really challenging, so I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time on them. So do the 3 check your understanding questions, and then we move on to analyzing the text. You do not have to do the research bit down at the bottom. At some point, I may assign some of these research things and other activities, but we're just sort of running out of time here at the getting close to the end of the 6 weeks to squeeze in everything because we started out a little bit slow and getting oriented to everything. So next 6 weeks you can expect to pick up the pace just a little bit and maybe add in some of these enrichment extensions of the assignment. Okay, so let's get started on these analyze the text questions and maybe even might help set up the answers for you, help you set up the answers so you'll have a good place to start. So first of all, we start out with infer. What words or phrases in paragraph 2 convey Alan's feelings about the flag? And so I would say this is a key word here, feelings. We can look for feeling words. How does he feel about it? Does understanding his attitude, and that's his tone, attitude and tone are the same when we're talking about the author's feelings about something. Does understanding his attitude make you feel that his argument is stronger or weaker, and why? And support your responses with evidence from the text. So the text evidence is going to be these words or phrases that convey his feelings. So I think that's something you would need to go back and mark up. So I'm going to go back to paragraph 2. So here's paragraph 1, here's paragraph 2. So I'm going to highlight words that indicate feelings. Okay, this is how you analyze an author's tone, which is the author's attitude towards what he or she is writing about. So he's writing about the American flag. So which words invoke a feeling in you? Well, it says the American flag is a cherished symbol of our national aspirations. So I would say the word cherished. When you cherish someone, you love them, and they have a very special place in your life, a very special place in your heart, or anything that you cherish is very special to you. And so that indicates a feeling. So I'm going to go ahead and it's not going to let me mark it up because of the mode that I'm in here recording. But anyway, cherished. It is the closest object to a national icon, rivaled only by the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Given the widespread and deeply felt reverence. Reverence is a feeling that you have towards something. For this symbol and what we perceive to be the best of our civilization, what is the harm in insisting upon a modicum or modicum, small amount offered as a symbol or gesture? What is the harm in offering or insisting upon a modicum of respect for it? After all, no one can seriously equate a prohibition on flag burning with the imposition of government orthodoxy in political speech. Any messages that burning the flag might convey easily can be communicated in other ways. Those are powerful points deserving the greatest respect. If not rebutted, they compel the conclusion that the Supreme Court was wrong in its decision. So he starts out by saying, he starts out with, if you look back at what you saw in the Get Ready, he starts out with a concession. He starts out by agreeing that the flag should be greatly respected. And then he even uses the word rebut, as in rebuttal. He says, if I don't rebut these claims, these concessions, then you could just easily say, oh, the Supreme Court was wrong because we must respect the flag. But he quickly changes course and reveals his real feelings about that, his real opinion about that. So let's see, go back to where we were. I almost forgot what I was doing here. So we're talking about paragraph 2, and he says, if not rebutted, they compel the conclusion that the Supreme Court was wrong in its decision. So he's making a concession here. But still, going back to the words that we were talking about at the top, well, I've got this marker. Let me do this. So cherished, reverence, deeply felt reverence. Okay? So if he feels that way about that, and I think that's probably enough for our answer, so we might want to come back in a little bit and use those quotes, use those in our quotes. So let's go back to the question. So remember, first things first, we need to turn the question into a statement. So the first question is, what words or phrases in paragraph 2 convey Alan's feelings about the flag? So I'm going to start out with, in paragraph 2, the author uses the words cherished and, pardon me, I'm old. I have to go back and look because I forget things very quickly. Cherished and reverence. The bell just rang. Cherished and deeply felt reverence. Hey, I'm making a video. All right, sorry. So I had a little visitor, and so we'll get back to it. So in paragraph 2, the author uses the words cherished and deeply felt reverence to refer to his feelings toward the flag. Sorry. So I've answered the first part of my question. What words or phrases in paragraph 2 convey Alan's feelings about the flag? And so I've actually already used some text evidence as well, right? With cherished and deeply felt reverence. Now, it gets a little bit harder. Does understanding his attitude make you feel that his argument is stronger or weaker? So his argument is it's the controversial idea that flag burning should be allowed under the First Amendment of the Constitution as a legitimate protest that someone can do, burning the American flag. People have very strong feelings when they see that happening, okay? Like I said yesterday, I remember that from when I was in high school. It's very jarring when you see someone on TV burning the American flag. It brings up a lot of feelings in people, especially people who are very patriotic. So knowing that he is going to say, he's going to side with the Supreme Court and say that they were right to rule that not that it's okay. They didn't rule that it was okay to burn the flag, but they ruled that it was not unconstitutional and therefore should not be illegal to burn the flag. So when he's coming out with that opinion that probably a lot of people disagree with, does the fact that he first establishes how he feels about the flag, that he cherishes it and has a deeply felt reverence for it, does that make his argument stronger or weaker? So just imagine if he had said, well, who cares about the flag? The Supreme Court was right. The American flag is not a big deal, and so if people burn it, it's no big deal. Or even something even remotely like that. that would have made his argument weaker, because you would have said, and I'm giving the answer to this question, but I really want you to understand how you go about thinking and constructing a short answer response like this. Okay, you've got 5 to do, and they're all pretty hard. So me helping you with the first one's a good thing. So, and yours doesn't have to be word for word the same as mine, but it can be. So by him saying at the beginning, I feel very strongly about the flag, just like you do. I have a reverence for it. I have a deeply held reverence, a deeply felt reverence. It's to be cherished. It makes his argument stronger, okay? Because it kind of lends credibility to his argument, because you say, okay, well, he's a guy that really does have respect for the flag. He just has a different opinion than, and maybe you don't have a different opinion than him, but he just has a different opinion than a lot of people do about whether you should be allowed to burn the flag. Okay, so how do we put that into an answer? So I don't have to say yes. A lot of times students will say yes or no answering the question, but it's sort of obvious that you're answering the question. So in paragraph 2, the author uses the words cherished and deeply felt reverence to refer to, I bet you caught that and I didn't, to refer to his feelings toward the flag. Understanding his attitude of respect makes his argument stronger. Now, the next question is why? And a lot of times when we're writing out answers like this, that's the part that we want to skip, because it's easier to say what the author actually said than it is to tell why, or try to infer why he said that. And notice that it is, I almost pointed to my screen. Notice that this is an inference question. We have to infer some things. But anyway, why does that make his argument stronger? Well, it lets us know that he's not just disparaging the flag and saying that it's not something that he cares about anyway, or that it's not important. So understanding his attitude of respect makes his argument stronger. And I'm just going to add to the sentence and say because. When it says why, we can say because if we've already started the sentence. Because the reader, remember we're using formal academic language here. You don't really have to refer to yourself. Because the reader let me move myself out of the way here. Because the reader knows from the beginning that he respects the flag, but just believes that the First Amendment is just as important. Okay, I spelled that wrong. Fix it. So he does respect the flag, but he just thinks that the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, is even more important than us feeling comfortable. You know, it makes people very uncomfortable to see someone burning the flag. But he thinks that someone's First Amendment rights are more important, an individual's First Amendment rights to protest and a free speech are more important than us saying, no, you've got to respect the flag, and forcing someone to respect the flag. So it says, support your responses with evidence from the text. So we already supported this first answer with evidence from the text by putting those words in there that we used. So let's just go back and find something to support how this makes his argument stronger, or to support this idea that we said that he respects the flag but believes that the First Amendment is just as important. So let me see. I'm kind of doing this along with you, so let me see what we can find. So here's a good point that he makes. Each individual is to have the freedom to develop by his or her own lights and not by the command of officialdom. Now that sounds kind of funny. But what he's saying is each person has the right to decide for themselves without the government telling them what they have to do. Okay? Which is a very American idea, but it still gets a little tricky when we're talking about something as controversial as flag burning. So I'm going to say in paragraph 3, he states that, and then I'm going to paste it. I like to do Control V. He states that, comma, each individual, we got to do quotation marks, is to have the freedom to develop by his or her own lights, his or her own lights, like their own conscience, and not by the command of officialdom. Okay? And then when you use a quote, you have to really show how it relates to your answer. This shows that he believes that individual rights are extremely important. So let me just go back and look over my answer and see how I feel about it. In paragraph 2, the author uses the words cherished. Let me make sure I answered the question. What words or phrases in paragraph 2 convey Alan's feelings about the flag? Does understanding his attitude make you feel that his argument is stronger or weaker? Why? Support your response with evidence from the text. In paragraph 2, the author uses the words cherished and deeply felt reverence to refer to his feelings towards the flag. Understanding his attitude of respect makes his argument stronger because the reader knows from the beginning that he respects the flag, but just believes that the First Amendment is, believes that the First Amendment is just as important. In paragraph 3, he states that each individual is to have the freedom to develop by his or her own lights and not by the command of officialdom. This shows that he believes that individual rights are extremely important and should not be dictated by the government and someone's conscience. Individual rights are extremely important and should not be limited by the government. How about that? Okay. Sorry that took so long, guys, but I really want you to concentrate and really practice on this skill of analyzing a text and answering the question in this format, okay? It takes some time, and this is not a perfect answer. If I had to go back and do it again, I would probably go more in depth, but you really have to dig in and think about it, okay? Let's move on to number 2. Analyze. In this editorial, Alan talks about the sanctity of the human conscience and the enlightenment that comes from debate. Explain how the connotations of these words convey his tone and support your responses with evidence from the text. Well, I'm not going to do this whole question with you, but I am going to kind of go over the details. So you need to look up the word sanctity, okay? The sanctity of the human conscience and the enlightenment that comes from debate. And explain how the connotations of these words convey his tone, okay? So the connotation is, well, let's go denotation and connotation. I'll just type it right here. I don't want you to type it. But denotation is the dictionary definition of a word. So it's just the straight meaning of it, okay? The connotation of a word is the meaning based on feelings that the word elicits, that the word, let's just say causes. the reader to feel. Okay, so the meaning based on the feelings that the word causes the reader to feel. So I always use the example of house and home. If you look up the definition of house and home in the dictionary, they're going to be very similar. A house is usually someone's home, but someone's home is usually a house, okay, or an apartment. But you get my meaning. So the definitions are going to be very similar. But if I say I love being at my house, or I love being home or at my home, which one has stronger feelings attached to it? Okay, so home has a stronger connotation than the word house. I could drive by a lot of houses on my way home, but there's only one place that is my home. That's where my doggies are and where my husband is and where I can get comfy on the couch and watch TV. So there's a stronger emotional attachment to that word home than house. So it has a different connotation, even though it has the same dictionary definition, same denotation. So what feelings are elicited by the words sanctity of the human conscience, that phrase, and enlightenment? So let's think about it a minute. He says there's a sanctity in the human conscience. The human conscience is that whatever is inside you, whatever you believe is inside you that makes you know the difference between right and wrong. Okay? And he says that there is a sanctity to that, that there is a reverence that should be respected. Okay? The human conscience is I don't know what word I want to use, is sacred. Okay? Each person's individual conscience. And enlightenment. When someone is enlightened, that word has a very positive connotation. Okay, so when we're talking about the connotation, so the word enlightenment and enlightened has a very positive connotation. If we say that someone is enlightened, the dictionary definition is going to mean that they know something, that they learned a lot, they've learned something. If I had time, we would look up the definitions, but I don't want to make this video too long. But anyway, but the connotation of enlightenment means that someone has learned something very important and their life is better because of it. When you say someone is enlightened, that means that they've learned something good and they've become a better person because of it. I mean, that's the connotation of the word. So I want you to go back and think of that, the sanctity of the human conscience and the enlightenment that comes from debate. So he says, from debating people about controversial topics, you become enlightened. Okay? So talk about in your answer, how do him using those words convey his tone, his attitude towards what he's talking about, and support your response with evidence from the text. 3, Allen presents a counter argument involving respect for the flag at the beginning of the editorial. We just talked about that, so that's good. The counter argument that he gave was that, of course, the American flag is important. Of course, it should be revered and respected. Okay, remember back in paragraph 2? How does this contribute to the structure of his argument? And how does he address the counter argument? Support your responses with evidence from the text. So I think you're going to have to go from paragraph 1 into paragraph 2. But this kind of goes along with question 1, in that this is the argument that he sets up at the beginning, that yes, this flag should be revered. Yes, the flag is very important, but, okay? But there's more to it than that, in his opinion. So how does he set up that counter argument, and how does it contribute to the structure of his argument? So I'll give you a hint. He starts out sounding like he's going to disagree with the Supreme Court. Okay? And so you're like, oh, he's going to disagree with people being allowed to burn the flag. And then he throws that rebuttal of the counter argument in there, and that changes your focus and shifts you to the idea that he's going to agree with the Supreme Court. So I want you to discuss that in your answer. 4, a logical fallacy is an error in reasoning. Suppose Allen had included this sentence in his editorial. What if he had said, anyone who wants to throw flag burners in jail is obviously not a supporter of the Constitution? Okay. So in what way is this statement a fallacy? Well, a fallacy means wrong. A fallacy means an error in logic, okay? When we're talking about a logical fallacy, it is an error in logical thinking. So first of all, using this word anyone, okay? When we use absolutes like that, anyone, everyone, everybody, and refer to a whole group that way without, thinking about each individual, when you make a broad, a generalization like that, that doesn't really strengthen your argument. Anyone who wants to throw flag burners in jail is obviously not a supporter of the Constitution. So if he started off with something like that, that sounds sort of combative, and it sounds like, and I always tell people, if you start off trying to argue with someone or, change someone's opinion by saying, you're wrong, it's stupid, how much of a response are you going to get to that? Are they going to listen to you? So if he says anyone who wants to throw flag burners in jail just obviously doesn't support the Constitution and doesn't know what they're talking about. If he had started out with that, how would that have affected his argument? And I kind of just went into that for you, and support your responses with evidence from the text. All right, I think that one's good to go. Allen discriminates or distinguishes. Discriminates can have a kind of a different meaning, but it means to discriminate, means to distinguish and show a difference between two things, or distinguishes between what people should do and what they should be allowed to do. So basically he says people should not burn the flag. If he says, pretty much he's saying in his argument, if I had my way about it, nobody would ever burn the flag. However, there's a difference between what people should do and what people should be allowed to do. So how does this reconcile? It seems like it's a contradiction, but how can he make that contradiction and support your responses with evidence from the text? All right. This has been a pretty long video. If you have any other questions about these, if you have any other questions about these 5 questions, I can help you in person or through email. I hope that kind of clarified some things for you. What I want is for you to see you making an honest effort at analyzing these things that we read and really trying to come up with some scholarly answers to these questions. And like I keep saying over and over again, you will get better at these, okay? And once you can do this, you'll just blast your way right through a multiple choice question, okay? If you can formulate your own answers to these critical thinking questions, and write a short essay about it, a multiple choice question will seem so easy to you. And that's the point. We want you to get better, not better at answering multiple choice, but just better at analyzing what you read. And it takes some work. It takes some effort. All right, I'll be quiet now. Let me know if you have any questions, and that's what you have to get done today is the check your understanding and the analyze the text. If you want to move on and do the critical vocabulary, if you finish, you can do that as well. And then here's a little activity that you're not required to do, but you could do as an extension over the dash that we talked about yesterday. All right, I will see you later.